Well, my name is Jordan Pearson. I play Christy Cleaves on the set of Dreamcatcher. This is Chase Jazzborne.
I am the director,
Yes.
and she is our star.
I'm the interviewer for today. So, I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
Like burning questions, things everybody's dying to know. How did you come up with Dreamcatcher?
Well, Dreamcatcher kind of came up with itself. We were having a paranormal discussion one day, and I guess it was so much detail in that conversation that I went to bed that night, and I actually dreamt the show. Literally, I went to sleep, and the dream that I had was I was in a living room watching this big screen television, and I watched Dreamcatcher intact, exactly how we're shooting it now. Mm-hmm. I saw the show. I woke up the next morning, straight through, I don't know exactly what part of the night that I was dreaming it, but it was, there were even Doritos commercials. I watched a show, and it was a long show, but I woke up thinking, wow, that was a nice show. And then all of a sudden I realized, Chase, you were sleeping. It was one of those things. I was kind of flabbergasted by the whole situation. Like, I've never done that before. I've dreamt a show. But I started thinking about it, and I'm like, I really liked that. That was very entertaining. It wasn't the most mysterious storyline by any means, but it was fun. Mm-hmm. And the youth in the show versus a lot of these shows, they get a little bit too dark for me. I really like that. And the last time I worked with youth, it actually was very well. We shot a movie called Fallen in Orlando. And it was very enjoyable working with those kids. So I don't know if that's where it came from, the background or something, but part of it I think had to do with a neighbor around the corner sharing something that happened in her life where she was dealing with these nightmares. And Mom would tell me, no, it was real, because you can't tell me a 3-year-old could make something up like that. Mm-hmm. So it made me, so I think that's what I took to bed that night was, wow, that if I had seen that as a parent, I'd really be questioning the nature of the universe kind of stuff. And I think that's kind of what prompted the whole thing. But for have that to manifest as a TV show in a dream, that just really caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. So I guess one could say that we're dream chasers right now.
Yeah. And so that was a kind of like, what I found very amusing was in the dream, the show title was Dreamcatcher. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I dreamt it up, one night and we're doing it, it's appropriate to call it that anyway, because it came from a dream. So I was like, it's double duty on the name. It's like, not only is the character catching the criminal by dreaming the crime scene, but the show came from a dream. So it's like, oh no, I got to keep that title. It had to stay that way.
Yeah. What's been your favorite part about the creative process of making a TV show?
Meeting the cast members one at a time and getting to know them. And it's been magical, because normally that process, if you'd asked me this 10 years ago, I'd be like, that's the part I hate. Literally, that's the part I hate. And I can't say it was the easiest thing in this show either. It took us a year to get this thing cast. And it was just kind of my being clumsy. The last time I'd cast a real production, instead of being the guy that told people how to do it, was when we did Fallen. And so that was 2008. Mm-hmm. This is the last time I actually had to cast one of my own shows. From that time until 2024, I was the liaison, location manager. I had like multiple roles. I was a production manager, production coordinator, you name, whatever it was I needed to do. I was the guy between production companies and governments like the Puerto Rico government or farther down the island chain. So that's what I've been doing for the last 20 years. I'm telling everybody else how to do it, but not having to do it myself. So when it came to this show, I had a clunky start because there's all kinds of new things. The last time I did it, we had print media, and something like Facebook was very fledgling in that process. But for Fallen, I didn't have to cast anybody. I was handed 22 kids in a group and said, here, do something with these kids. And I was there to train them. I was not there to do anything production-wise. And there's 6 different production companies put these kids together for me and said, we need you to train these guys for Disney. I said, okay. So I started training them as actors. We put the script together for training purposes, and the next thing I knew, one of the producers says, hey, that's a nice script, let's shoot it. But I wrote it for the kids.
Yeah.
So there was no casting process then either. This time it was, okay, I got to cast this thing. My casting director has been out of sync for a while. I've been out of sync for a while. We got to figure out how to do this. Well, first time I tried, I blew it. I didn't know that Facebook had all these extra controls. And so the first time we tried to cast this show, it was trying to pull people from Orlando, which is where I was the last time.
Oh, no, okay.
We got, I don't know, 5,000 people from Miami all the way to New York wanting to do this show.
Yeah.
But absolutely nobody from the West Coast. So I'm like scratching my head going, all right, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I better stop. That was my thing, is I better stop. You know, I've become a manager's manager or the teacher of the producers. I'm not the guy in the field anymore. So I had already come home after 16 films back to back, burned out, and said, I'm just going to rent the studio out. And so I decided, no, I'm just going to take a break. This was not in my idea of doing anything right now at all this way. I was going to rent the studio. But because of that break, I lost touch with all these things. And so that mistake cost me initially, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to get caught up. So I stopped everything. And then one thing led to another. And I figured the show was done. And it was, okay, fine. It was a novel idea, but I need to get back on track. Then a couple of cast members showed up out of the blue. And I'm like, how did you find me? Well, a friend of mine in New York said that this project sounded really cool. I should get in touch with you. And that's what happened. People said that initial mistake, because of this huge buzz that happened, because we ended up with our lead actress, who I grabbed the neighbor who I'd done that, had that talk with, and said, hey, you kind of had this stuff going on in your life. You could probably relate to this character. And she went, and said, I'll teach you how to act, and we'll have you do this. And it was going to be a fun version of it initially. It was going to be like they were homeschool kids, so it was like, oh, it's just a class project.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, well, we'll get one updated camera and we'll shoot these kids. And that's how it started. The idea, which is really a professional idea, was going to be wasted on, and I can't say wasted, it would have been a nice little project, but where we could take this thing would have been wasted, because I would not have pushed it at that point in time. So the idea would have been lost. I don't want to say the word wasted, it sounds terrible. Yeah. It would have been lost on trying to do it with the kids that really weren't motivated.
Yeah, maybe not live to.
Yeah, it was almost like once I had this idea, it wasn't something they wanted to do, and it was too much. So I was like, okay. So I kind of parked it, but then more cast members started showing up, and I just started putting them in an archive, and I went, maybe I better start thinking about this. So I finally did my homework 6 months later and figured out how everything worked. As I would, I had to tell myself, look, if you were back in the Caribbean, what would you do if one of these producers came to you and said, hey, I have this problem? So I went back into mentor mode, but this time I was mentoring myself and said, okay, I need to figure out what I would say to this guy and then tell myself that. So I did my homework and figured everything out real quick, because I had people starting to line up. And I'm like, okay, do I tell them I want to see them, or do I say I'm not doing this? two or three. What I think it was Viosa, which is the one that just made me go, whoa. I decided to use AI and create, using these prompts, people that matched my vision of them from the dream that I had. And so I put them, okay, I need somebody that looks like this. And so we put these pictures on, and Viosa sends in an email and a picture. And the two were basically identical. She's like, where did you get my picture? Was kind of the idea in the email. Like, that's the, so we started laughing about that fact that she absolutely matched. You cannot tell the AI from Viosa. They look, they are so identical. It's incredible. So I'm like, Then I started running into people on the street. And I'm like, I started thinking about what we're doing. Well, we're out in the desert out here, okay? We're in the foothills of San Diego County.
Yeah.
Who's going to want to come out here and do this thing? There's no budget, blah, blah, blah. We were nothing at that point. I didn't even have any gear. So I'm like, okay. So that was really the magic that started. All the people starting to show up, and I saw, all of a sudden felt it could go.
Yeah.
What makes a show work is the people working it. It's not the director's idea or anything else. The crew has to be magic. The cast has to be magic. They have to be able to work well together, both versions, And if you don't have those bodies to make that magic, it's a fight. And I've done very complex stuff with very few people, and we've done okay with that. But when it comes to the cast has to, for example, you're magical as far as I'm concerned. You've got the great attitude. Everybody loves you. And so it was a pleasure to have you play this role because it just fits you. And everyone that I have in the cast, it's just the prime idea. And when we're doing the casting process, and I had to remind myself, I was working with the CSA people for a long time. So it's like, I know how it works. And I know how hard it is to battle. To have a cast member come in basically one at a time, and they absolutely matched my idea without me having to scan through 400 people.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened. And this show basically put itself together, and it finally got to a point where I can't ignore it anymore. This thing's took on a life of its own.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's like, okay, Chase, are you in or not? And at that point, I went, let's do this. And so I maxed things out. I pulled every bit of cash I had on the side, and we fixed up the studio, and we got all new cameras, all new gear, because we were supposed to shoot a movie of mine called The Efficiency Expert in the island of Vieques down in Puerto Rico. And we were 3 weeks into this, finally got crew coming down and the whole deal, and here comes Hurricane Maria.
Oh, goodness.
I was at ground zero for Hurricane Maria, the strongest in history. And so we had to get all the crew out. Within 24 hours, the storm hit. And what equipment we had was just obliterated.
Yeah.
It was obliterated. And so when I came back to San Diego in 2024, I came back with no equipment whatsoever. Nothing. And so everything we have now is all brand new. It's all been reset up. And we are pretty much state of the art at this point.
Yeah.
And so it was you and your co-cast members that prompted this. Yeah. You guys did it. Okay. So you guys brought the life to it. I can see the show now through each and every one of you. So definitely it's the casting for this show.
Are there any actors, writers, or directors that have inspired you, maybe since childhood, maybe since you've been in the industry? Is there anybody that you kind of pull from or carry with you throughout your writing and your directing process?
Well, when I was really young, of course, we all go, Spielberg. You know, it was one of those things. Because the movies that he was putting out were just he was cutting edge, you know, when I was younger.
Absolutely.
And so it was just the grand idea of the things that he was doing. It wasn't so much exactly how he did it, it was just what he was doing at the time. I think one of the directors that inspired me when I was really young was Alfred Hitchcock, of all people. And it was so funny because I liked watching what he did and how he did it, but I never got into that genre myself.
Yeah.
I'm not a horror filmmaker.
That's okay.
I love to watch his work. So it made me think, but that's about it. And I think because I wasn't doing what the guy who made me think did, I had to invent my own scheme.
Yeah.
And so, and then back then, the studios ran everything. And I ended up getting partially tied to Paramount. And so I'm trying to fit in at Paramount and do things the way the studio does them. And you know, they commanded everything at the time. And it was tough. And it really was, at that time, for the longest time, I remember telling my students this business is and always will be a who you know business, you know. And it was actually one of the top Paramount executives that said, this principle is killing the art.
Yeah.
And the guy in charge is telling me, this is killing the art.
Do you agree with
See,
that statement?
he actually, yeah, he's like, go home and don't do it like this. He actually kind of kicked me out of Hollywood and said, go home, don't do it like this.
Yeah.
So then I decided, okay, well, I need to do something different. And at that time, I owned a record label. It was Aria Records. Aria was actually Aria Records at the time. And so I came back and I decided to turn Aria Records into Aria Motion Pictures.
Yeah.
And Aria is an acronym, another radical indie attempt.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a few indies out there, and I said, you know what, let's try this. You know, let's take on the studios. Let's see if we can do stuff out here in the real world versus Holly Magic. You know, it's like, let's see what we can do out here if we can. And of course, man, what a battle that was initially. Now it's all indie. Everybody's shooting something somewhere, and you don't have the studio telling you. You get a list from distribution. Okay, it needs to be this kind of camera, this, you know, and that's what you get from them now. You don't get, we want you here, we want you there. It doesn't work that way. Now it's all indies. You know, they're doing everything. So we were kind of like the foot in the door at the time.
Yeah.
But we had to be political. We didn't really get to shoot yet.
Yeah.
So that's why there's a lot of people who don't know that I've been a professional for 40 years in this industry.
Absolutely.
Because I've been the guy behind the scenes manipulating politics.
Yeah.
And the guy training other people to do it. Because the only way we could get this to where we are now was for a lot of people to understand how it needed to work, not how it was working.
Absolutely.
How it was working, the studios owned everything.
Yeah. How
it needed to work was we needed to know how to do what the studios were doing. Somebody needed to train me. That ended up being me. And so I was happy and complaining at the same time. You're like, well, we're getting somewhere, but I want to shoot something. That's what kept happening.
Yeah.
So there it is. Yeah. We're shooting something.
We are. How has your past experience helped you with Dreamcatcher?
The fact that I have counseled so many groups on getting something started at all levels, for me, it's old hat. I'm doing this without even thinking about it because I'm just employing every technique and every educational bit that I've ever shared with anybody else in my own studio. So the reality is this is coming very, very easy.
Yeah.
We're moving along. We had one little casting difficulty that we had to clear up, and that gave you your new role.
Yeah.
And that was just something that needed to happen for the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have more motivation. I needed my star of the show to be motivated, and then you are. So I mean, look at that. She actually initiated this interview process, and this is something that we wanted to do, and we just haven't got around to it. And Jordan just says, "Let's do these interviews," and I'm like, "Thank you."
And thank you for giving me
She's
the
inadvertently,
creative freedom.
she's doing what I have counseled so many people on. You need to do this with your cast. You need to do this with the. People want to know these things behind the scene. And she says, "Hey, we should do this." I'm like, "Boom! She's now in charge."
Yay! I like it, but thank you for trusting me as well. Like this film is very close to your heart. It's been in the works for a very long time, so I'm very appreciative that you trust in me to be able to do these interviews with you and the rest of the cast. Spoiler alert. As well as play the role of Chrissy, because that's something that's very, I'm sure, near and dear to your heart. The storyline is something that you've come up with, you've spent a lot of time, you've invested a lot of time, money, and effort into, and I really appreciate that you trust me as an actor to be able to do that. So,
I'm just so happy to have you doing this.
thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Very exciting project.
Well, we're going to make some magic, folks.
We are going to make some magic. Stay tuned for the rest of the interviews, and we'll see you guys next time on Interviews.